Whatever the value that I am going to send in the calling function should match with the number of arguments in the called function. Then only it will going to execute. Whatever the value that I am going to give for the first value, that will be assigned to A, and whatever the value that I am going to give as a second value, that will be assigned to B. If you just look back into the memory location of this A and B, this will going to be stored somewhere else in the memory location. Will it going to have its own value? No. Whatever I have sent for A and B, that will going to be assigned to X and Y. Hello everybody, welcome back to the session 4 on chapter 13, that is user-defined functions. I am Rohini TS from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. In the previous session of this user-defined chapter, we have discussed regarding the types of user-defined functions. So how many types we had in user-defined function? That is, totally it comprises of 5 types. So how you are supposed to remember? Mainly you have to think about what is argument and whether it is having a return values or not. Okay, so there are 4 possibilities there. So no arguments and no return values, and we have no arguments and return values, that is, and we have arguments and no return values, and we have arguments, along with that we have return values, and last type is recursive function. So these are the types of user-defined function. That is what I have discussed on the previous session. That is what this operations or this user-defined function will going to accept arguments and not, whether it is returning some value back to the main functions or not. That is what I have discussed in all the types of this user-defined functions. And also I have discussed regarding how we are going to pass the default arguments to the function. When I wanted to have a default value, for example, that need not to be modified by the compiler, then I am going to make that as a default value. Then how we are going to send the default value to the function? That is what I have discussed in the previous class, and also we have learned regarding uses of that default values. At last, I have discussed regarding how we are going to pass a constant argument to the function. So in our today's session, we are going to learn about this pass by value or call by value. How I am going to make another function active, that is how we are going to invoke the function. That can be either by passing the value or by passing the address or a reference. That will be the second topic, that is pass by reference or call by reference. And also we are going to learn how we are going to pass arrays to the function. Is it possible to pass the arrays as an arguments to the function? In the same way, we are going to pass structures to the function. This is what I will be discussing in my today's session. So let me get into the first topic of today's session, that is pass by value or a call by value. So now we'll see about this pass by value or a call by value. So already we know that when we are working with user-defined functions, there I have a calling function and a called function. So in the calling function, we are going to send the function name and what are the arguments that I require for the operations or a calculation. So when it reaches to the called function, at that time control will going to be moved from calling function to called function. So in the called function, some operation will going to take place and it will going to return the value back from the called function to calling function. Here in the calling function, I need to send arguments. So in the argument list, we are sending a values. So we are going to send some value for the variable. By making use of that values, it will going to perform some of the operation. That is what we are making the called function active, or we are invoking that function by sending a value from calling function to called function. So let me take one example here. Consider here I have a int. So int is a data type here, and I am going to take a function name as a square. Function name as a square, and I will take one argument or a parameter. Let me consider that as a int a. How we are going to find the square of a given number? That is what a into a. If it is cube, a into a into a. So 3 times we are supposed to take, but I am dealing with square. So in the return value, I am going to take return of a into a. Okay, what it is returning, it returning some value. That's why I should not take void here. I have to take any other data type. So that after that I am going to close. Whether it is a calling function or a called function, it is a called function. So how I am going to call a function, already I have discussed in my second session. That is what how we are going to make a call. That means how we are going to make another function active. So here, in order to call a function, I have to write a name of a function. So what is that? Name of a function is square. And how many arguments I have here? Only one parameter or a argument I have. So this is formal parameter, and whatever I am going to send in the calling function will be actual parameter. So what I am supposed to send? I have to send only one value. I have to send only one value, because whatever the value that I am going to send in the calling function should match with the number of arguments in the called function. Then only it will going to execute. So here I have to send a value for a, and which is of the data type integer. So that I am going to take the value called 10 semicolon. So here this square is not capable of producing the result. That means it's not able to display the resultant. So I'm just going to take one variable called b. So that b will going to store the value of this square. So here we are in the calling function. This is called function. So you remember, this is called function and this is calling function. Calling function. Okay. So now square of 10. That means I am sending a value from the calling function to called function. So when this encounters in the program, at that time the 10, the value that is of the function name called square, the 10 will going to be assigned to this a. So now a value will going to be 10. After this, it will enter into the loop, and 10 into 10, it will going to hold 100. That value will going to be assigned to this function called square. So where I am again, this calling function returns the control from called function to calling function. At that time, the value of the square becomes 100. That 100 will going to be stored in the B. That is what we are doing in this call by value method. I am calling the function. I am making this called function active by sending the value from the calling function to called function. That is what we are going to call that as a pass by value or call by value. You can see that a function can be called by passing the arguments. How I am going to call a function? That is by making or by sending the arguments to the calling function into the called function. From where to where I am sending? From calling function to called function, we are making it active. We are making this called function active by sending the argument or by sending the list of parameters from calling function to called function. That argument will going to have the value. That is what we are going to call that as a pass by value or call by value. So now the data will going to be transferred from the argument list. That is from calling function to the called function, we are going to send the data. This calling function will going to send the data to the called function with the help of actual parameter. That is what I have stressed here. This is actual parameter, and whatever we have here, that is formal parameter. So this formal parameter does not contain any value. So it has to take a value from actual parameter. By making use of this value, this will going to perform some of the operation. So after doing all those operation and all, it has to send a value back to the calling function. This calling function, by making use of a variable, it will going to display the value after the operation. Okay, now we'll see the example program, then you can understand how this function will going to work. So this pass by value and pass by reference, both are important question for 5 marks. So here you can see that the called function uses these value as the initial values of the formal parameter. So if you take an example here, int a, that is formal parameter, it won't have its own value. That is what I can call this as a dummy arguments, because it will take the values from the actual parameter itself. So that called function will going to receive the values from calling function, and that value will going to be assigned to the formal parameter. Again, it will going to perform some of the operation, so that the formal parameters are processed or it will going to be changed in order to generate the required result. That is what we got here as a return of a into a. So after getting that process, the changes are going to be affected to the actual parameters or actual arguments. So after this return value, again this called function will going to transfer its control from here to calling function. So at that time, instead of this 10, this will become the value. That is what it will become 100. The square of a given number become 100. That value will going to be stored in the B. So now we'll see the programming example in order to use how we are going to use this call by value or pass by value method. So here example program to swap two numbers using pass by value. I am swapping the content of two values. So let me consider I have A and B. So I just wanted to exchange the value of A to B and B to A again. So in order to make that, we are using third variable called temp. So here I have skipped the header file, that is what it is mandatory and it is common for all the programming. We are going to use #include iostream.h, #include conio.h, iomanip.h. Those are all the mandatory header file that we are going to use in all the programs. So what we have next, void main, where the actual execution of a program gets started, that is in the void main. So here next, void swap of int comma int. So just looking into it, what you can observe. So what you can observe here, void is a return type and swap is the name of a function. And here I have a int comma int. So what it indicates, so it is nothing but function prototype. So that is what I'm just declaring what type of return value it will going to have and what is the name of a function and how many arguments are a parameter that I require for my operation. At last, don't forget to put semicolon. That indicates that function prototype, how my function should look like. So that means what? We are just giving a skeleton. We are just giving its representation or a blueprint. How my function called swap should look like. It must have a two variables, that is int a comma b, that I am going to take it later. After that, I have a two variables called int a comma b. And you can ask that whether it is mandatory to have this function prototype. No. So it is not so mandatory to have a function prototype. So without you just understand one example, real-time example. Without building a building, so in front of that constructions and all, they are just going to put one blueprint. So after the building, how it will going to look like. That is what they are just simply defining how it will going to look like. That means they are simply declaring that. Okay. So in the function prototype, it will going to defines what will be the return type specifier, what is the name of a function and how many arguments list that it will going to have. That is what the use of having this function prototype. So again I have a two variables called a comma b. So consider I have a and I have a b. Okay. So then clear screen, this is what function call. Clear screen is a function that is belongs to the header file called conio.h. So when I wanted to use this clear screen, when we are using this clear screen, at that time it will going to erase the content of a previous program's output. That is what the reason of having this clear screen. So what we have in a cout statement, enter the two numbers. Whatever we have within the double quotes will going to be displayed as a statement. So now the compiler is asking the user to enter the value of two numbers. So what are the two numbers I am taking? A and B. So whatever the value that I am going to give for the first value, that will be assigned to A, and whatever the value that I am going to give as a second value, that will be assigned to B. So that is what we are doing in C in A comma B. So now let me consider 10 is a value and 20 will be the value of B. So what we have in the next line, cout before calling the function. So till now I didn't call the function. I just declared what is the function prototype is all about. I didn't call or I didn't define the function. So now before calling the function, A is equal to, remember dear students, here whatever I am writing between the double quotes in the cout statement will going to be used or it will going to be displayed as a statement. But if I am using a same variable name in a cout statement without double quotes, then it will going to return the values of that particular variable. So now what will be the output that I am going to get for this one? Cout A. Within double quotes I am writing the A. So this will be considered as a statement. Here I have a cout A, but here I have a variable called A. What is the value of that A? That is 10. That 10 will going to be displayed. So that is the difference of double quotes and without double quotes. Without double quotes, that indicates that it will return the value what is resides in that particular variable. So here we are going to display the value of A and B, that is before the function call. So before the function call, the value of A is 10 and the value of B is 20. Okay. So remember, value of A is 10 and value of B will be 20. So after this, end of the line. So when I'm going to use end line, when I wanted to have a next your statement in the next line, then it is mandatory to have this end line manipulator. So next, swap of A comma B. Remember, we are function call. We are having a function call. Okay. So when you just look into this, you have to understand this is a function call. Why? Because this swap is the name of a function and I'm sending two values for this functions. So that is what? A and B. So whether it is an actual arguments or a formal parameter, this is actual. Why? Because I'm sending it from the calling function. So whatever the value that I'm going to send for A comma B will going to be assigned to the value of called function. That is what the reason. So when I found this calling function, at that time control will going to be checking or it will going to search for the called function. So it won't execute these two statements. It is directly going to jump where we have this called function. It can be either before the main function, even after the main function. So that this swap of A comma B will going to search for this content and it will come here. So here void swap of int x comma int y. So what it indicates, I am using a return type called void because it does not return any value. Which kind of user defined it is? So the function with no return type but with arguments. So that is what the type of the user defined function here. And I have a two variables called x comma y. So these are the formal arguments or a formal parameter. Will it going to have its own value? No. Whatever I have sent for A and B, that will going to be assigned to X and Y. So in the previous slide, I have discussed regarding pass by value. How we are going to pass the value from the actual arguments to formal arguments. So here formal arguments are X and Y and it is getting the value from A and B. So here X is nothing but A and Y is nothing but B. The value of A is 10 and the value of B is 20. Okay, so after getting the value, it will enter into the loop. So within that, what we have, I have a one more variable called temp. So as of now, you consider I have one more variable called temp. Okay, so next line, what we have, temp is equal to x. So that is what we are making an assignment. Whatever we have at right side, that needs to be copied to the content of a left variable. Okay, so the assignment should be from right to left. So what we have in x is nothing but 10, A. So that value will going to be copied to temp. So as of now, temp become 10 and you consider this as A and this as B. So now A value become null. That means there is no value in the A right now because whatever we had in the A, that will be copied to this temp. So in the next line, x is equal to y. So what we have in y right now, I have a y value as 20. So that 20 will going to be copied to x. So x is nothing but what? A. So now the value of A becomes 20. So now y is empty. Okay. So again y is empty in the sense that x and y value. So x is nothing but A and y is nothing but B. And temp will be the third variable which I wanted to hold the value temporarily. That is what the reason we are having that temp variable. Next, y is equal to temp. What we have in temp, we have a value called 10 in the temp. That will going to be copied to y, that is nothing but B. So now value got both exchanged. Initially it was 10 and 20. Now it become 20 and 10. So once this over, that means once the closing of a called function we got to know, then the control again will go from called function to calling function. Where it is? That is here. So now A value, what is the A value right now? That is 20 and the B value become 10. That will going to be displayed here. That is what? See out, after calling the function A becomes 20 right now and this B becomes 10. After that end L get CH and closing of a main function. So this is how the pass by value function will going to takes place. So now we'll see about the second type, that is pass by reference or a call by reference. So before this, I just wanted to give some real-time example to make you understand the difference between pass by value and pass by reference. So you just imagine you are giving me some sweets. So after having the sweet, I'm just asking you from where did you bought. So that is what if I'm asking you like can you get me one more sweet, that is what I'm asking the value. That means I'm asking the value or I'm calling by value. But if I'm asking what is the address of this particular sweet shop or a particular sweet center and all, that is passed by reference. So if I am passing the value, that is passed by value or a call by value. But if I am asking the address of that variable, where it is exactly located in the memory location, then that is call by reference or a pass by reference. So if you are seeking for the value or I am making another function active by sending the value, that is call by value. And if I am making another function get active by asking or by active or by giving its reference or address, that is call by reference. So here in the C++ for the references, that is address. So you just understand when I am declaring this int a comma b. Okay, you consider int a comma b. So here a is nothing but 10 and b value will be 20. Okay, this is the value of a and this is the value of b. So when I am declaring this a and b, at the time based on the type of data type it is having, the memory will going to be allocated. So if you just look back into the memory location of this a and b, this will going to be stored somewhere else in the memory location. If I am passing a value, then these two value will going to be specified or these two value will going to be sent from calling function to called function. But instead of sending this value, if I am sending its address where it is exactly located in the memory location, consider it will be in the memory location 1001 and it will be in the memory location 1003, anywhere could be in the memory location. So if I am sending its address, then that will be called as what? Where it is exactly in the memory location of a computer's memory. So I am passing that reference. So if I am asking how many members are there in your family, that is what? Call by value. But if I am asking the address of your house, at that time I will come directly and I will check it out how many members are there. That is what? Pass by reference. So see the difference here. Second type is what? Pass by reference or a call by reference. So sometimes what we are supposed to do, we need to change the values of the actual arguments in the calling function. So now this is not possible with passing by value. So because whatever the value that I have sent from calling function to the called function in the pass by value method, I have to work only with the values of actual arguments to the formal arguments or a formal parameter. But when I wanted to change the value of actual parameters or actual arguments, then we have to use its reference. So when I get to know the address of a house, then I can modify something. But if I just get to know how many members are there, then I can't do anything or I can't modify anything. Okay, so remember that real-time example and implement that concepts to the C++ concepts. So here, when I wanted to change the value of actual parameter, at that time, I can't change it when we are working with pass by value. But if I'm working with a pass by reference or if I'm dealing with its address where it is actually resides in the computer memory, then it will be possible for me to change the value of actual arguments. That is what the reason of having this pass by reference. So reference is nothing but it address where it is exactly located in the computer memory. So C++ will going to allow us to pass the arguments to the function by using reference variable. So when we are passing the arguments by making use of this pass by reference method, at that time this formal arguments are a formal parameter will be having a direct access to the actual arguments. Then there will be a possibility of making a modification to the actual arguments or an actual parameter. But if I am working with a pass by value, that can't be done. So at that time we are just going to simply use the values whatever has been sent from calling function to called function. So now we'll see the example for this pass by reference. So what and all we have done for the pass by value, it is same thing as for this pass by reference. The main changes is what you have to Remember one thing, here we are going to add ampersand symbol. That is what we are sending the references. That means we are sending the addresses of a variable from the calling function to called function. That is what the reason when I am having this function prototype, like what are the return type we are having and what is the name of a function and what are the list of arguments that I wanted to send from calling function to called function. So in that space we are going to specify its address of operator. If you just recall the pass by value, there we don't have this ampersand symbol. This ampersand symbol is already we have learnt in the operators. That is what introduction to C++ chapter. In there we have learnt about this ampersand, that is nothing but address of operator. So this is address of operator. It will going to hold the addresses of a variable where it will going to be located in a computer memory. So here everything will be same. Void is the return type and swap is the name of a function, and I have two arguments or a parameter, that is int ampersand, which is will going to hold the address of this one variable which is of the data type integer, and remaining everything will going to be same as we discussed in the pass by value. But here when it comes to this function call, at that time we are going to send the actual arguments. But when I am sending the addresses of an actual arguments, at that time by making use of the address of that actual arguments, these formal parameters or an arguments will going to have a capability in order to make some modification to the value of an actual argument. So here also in the function definition, when the function control moves from this function call to called function, so in the called function, here we are going to take two variables which is of the data type integer. Along with that, I am going to specify the address of x and address of y. So that means this x is nothing but the value of a. So that means it will going to hold the address of a. This ampersand y will going to hold the address of b. And the remaining operation will be same as the pass by value. I hope you all understood with this pass by value and pass by reference. So that's all about call by value and call by reference. So we'll see the next topic, that is what? Passing the arrays to functions. So till now in the function call I have sent a value and I have sent a reference. Here is it possible to send the arrays to function? We'll see now. So here we have what? Passing arrays to functions. So already we know that arrays is nothing but it is a collection of homogeneous elements that it will going to hold similar kind of data values. Then can we send this array as an arguments to the function? Somehow it is difficult. So we can't send all content of a arrays into the functions arguments. So instead of that, when I wanted to send the arrays as an arguments to the function, at that time we are just need to send only the name of an array. So that name of an array is just required in order to send that as an argument in the function. So what did I told? If I wanted to have this arrays as an arguments in the function, it is only in need of sending the name of the array. So by making use of this name of an array, it will get to know its address, then that will going to be used. So this is regarding what? Passing arrays to functions. So what we have as a last topic, that is passing structures to functions. So as of now, this structure is a new concept for you. So that is what I will be discussing in my next class or a next chapter, that is about the structures. So array is a collection of homogeneous elements, but structure is a collection of heterogeneous elements, that it will going to have different kinds of data elements within it. I can also send these structures as an arguments to the function, but when we are sending these structures as an arguments to the function, then we have to use a pass by reference method. That means I have to send a name of a structure along with the ampersand symbol. So we should include the address of operator in order to send the address of a structure as an argument to the function. I hope you all understood with this chapter. It's all about user defined functions. So let me meet you in the next session with a new chapter. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.